Welcome to my channel, and I'm back with you once again with another video of Microsoft Flight Simulator. Today I will be doing a review of the Airbus A380-800, which is recently available in the marketplace of the Microsoft Flight Simulator. I've recently purchased it, and for the past few days I was trying to do a review, so today I just got some time and I thought of doing a flight. This plane comes with 6 default liveries, but unfortunately there is no livery for the Airbus. So either you have Singapore Airlines or British Airways, or you have Qatar or Etihad. Even Emirates livery is not there. So that's why the only option that I had was selecting the Qatar Airways livery and doing a flight from Riyadh to Qatar. So this is going to be a short flight, and I will just try to cover all the features of this plane, and I will show you in this video how these features work. Before I proceed further, I would just like to tell you that I'm not going to force your purchase decision. I'm not going to tell you whether to buy it or not. I'm just going to show you all the features, and the decision is up to you whether you want to buy it or not, because everybody has got their own preferences. I wanted to buy it because, if I do some videos with this plane, let's say making short reels for the YouTube or for the Facebook, they look nice. Otherwise, I thought I will learn something about Airbus A380. But this plane is not a study level plane, and you will not learn anything new if you are flying the Airbus A320 or A310. Rather, you will learn more if you're doing flights with Airbus A310 rather than this plane. So let's get some power in the plane. You have these battery switches, and turn on the external power. Interestingly, you can see you have got your navigation display and the primary flight display work. It has nothing to do with the iris alignment, because in the Airbus planes you have to turn it nav in order to have your navigation display and primary flight display working. So this is one thing which I have identified. Let's get the packs, because it might get hot in the plane. So the MCDU is very basic, just like the A320 MCDU, the basic one. And plus this plane doesn't have an electronic flight back, so you cannot do performance takeoff calculation and see all the charts, or maybe do some ground services, or calculate the fuel and the payload. For this, you have to use the built-in feature of the Microsoft Flight Simulator to do the fuel calculation and the passengers and the cargo. That's it. And even when the engines are not running, the fuel is getting burned. So this is something really interesting. Okay, so this is one thing. So initialization is not dependent on the iris alignment. Right now what I can do is this. I can start this video with the initialization of the flight. So let's go to this initialization page, and over here, OERK, this is the departure / OTHH Qatar and Hamad International Airport. Here it is, cost index. I will be setting it for 80, and I will be cruising at flight level 230. A short flight, just wanted to explore some features. For Riyadh, 33 right will be the runway for the takeoff, and LTA 1K will be the star. Insert and LTAV. There is one thing I also want to tell you, that this plane doesn't pick up the airways. So after LTAV, there is an airway H976. So it says not in database. So you cannot use the airways. All you can do is this, just enter the waypoints. So the next waypoint is Musri. I will just quickly enter the waypoints. So if you're doing a long flight, just imagine how many waypoints you will be entering. Insert, and after KFA, we have Ladna. And then after Ladna, HAYA. Let's see if YYA, if this waypoint works. And for the arrival, 34 right. And this is going to be the star, and the legma is the transition. Insert, and let's see if it's working. Let's go to plan, and let's go through it. So you can look at the flight plan over here, the navigation display, to see if there's any discontinuity or the flight plan is good. Yes, it's all good. Everything is good. So I can just go back here, and let's set the QNH or adjust the altimeter. So right now in Riyadh, it's 1008, if I'm not wrong. Exactly 1008. I'm just doing everything quickly in order to just take you through the flight, because the main purpose of this video is to explore the features of it. So let's turn on the fuel pumps. That's it. And let's set the strobe to auto. You can set it to auto or on. Beacon, you can turn it on. For nav and logo, it's on or off. And that's it. Now you can turn on the APU. On the ECAM, you cannot see the APU information. So these buttons, only engine and fuel works. Bleed, pressure, electric, APU, nothing works, or the door. So either engine or fuel, that's it. So once the APU says available over here, then you can turn on the APU bleed and the APU batteries. You can hear the sound of the APU running, and that's it. And on the ECAM, there is no even indication the APU is running or not, or whatever is happening. It's not coming over here. So everything is good. We've turned on the fuel pumps, iris to nav, and APU battery on. Everything is looking good. I can call for the pushback, release the parking brakes. You cannot get rid of this armrest. And another thing, I would just like to tell you that for the speed brakes, now they are disarmed. And if you try to arm them, it's kind of a struggle. It's not that easy. You can see I always struggle to arm the speed brakes. You see? Very difficult. Okay. So that's it. So I can get rid of the brakes and call for the pushback. Let's go over here. Ground services and pushback. Yep. Now it has started. So let's start the engines. I will just start all the 4 engines together to save time. So all the 4 engines are now running, and the engines are now stable. So I can move it to norm and turn off the APU bleed, and that's it. I can just stop the pushback now, apply the parking brakes, and so this light has got 2 settings, taxi and takeoff. It simply goes to takeoff or off. Nothing for the taxi. The nose light and the wing lights on. So I don't have a choice. Turn on the seatbelt signs, smoking signs. They're working. That's it. So everything is looking good. As I'm not flying in the anti-ice condition, so I will not be turning in the anti-ice. But one thing I would just like to tell you, I noticed. So wing, it works independently. This button also works independently, but if you press 2, all 3 buttons get pressed. 2, 3, and 4. This is just I wanted to tell you. For the heads-up display, you can get the heads-up display. It looks more like the Boeing 787 heads-up display, but in the morning, nothing is visible. And you cannot even control the brightness of the heads-up display. As you can see, it's not really clear. So let's release the parking brakes and taxi the plane and take it up to the runway. For the throttle, you have these settings, climb and flex temp and toga. But If you're used to the Airbus A320 or Airbus A330 or 340, once you are, moving your throttle, you can hear the clicks, but you cannot hear the clicks over here on this plane. So you have to keep an eye. And it doesn't even lock. So you really have to, target the climb after climbing. And another thing, this plane doesn't have any support for the controllers. So if you're using any external controller, you cannot configure the throttles. As you can see, there is no electronic flight bag. Even from the MCDU, if you try to go to the MCDU menu, you cannot access the MCDU menu. I maybe initially thought maybe there are some settings over here. So it's not even there. So you have to do everything yourself. So all of your controllers will be of no use. Only you can just maneuver the plane and throttle, yes or no. That's it. No climb, no flex to temp, nothing. Another thing I just forgot to do after the flight plan. I was so excited about doing this video. For the takeoff performance calculation, you can simply click these buttons over here and it picks up the takeoff performance. And let's set the flaps to 1. I should have done it before. But anyhow. So I can set the flaps. And that's it. This is the basic takeoff performance calculation that you can do. You cannot even set the pitch of the takeoff. No trim settings for the pitch. Up or down. You don't get this. So that's why I'm just keeping it as 1. Flex to temp, you can even see it's not coming correct, 20 degrees. And transition altitude you can change. For Riyadh, it's 13,000 feet. So I can adjust the transition altitude. Thrust reduction, can you change it? Can you set it to 1,500? Yeah. You can do that. Okay. I was just checking and it just happened. Okay. But I was doing a flight yesterday, and even I think you get this indication to move your thrust to climb in this part of the primary flight display, which is the FMA, flight mode enunciator. And another thing I would just like to tell you that if you go to this initialization page, on the init B page, the fuel and the weight of the plane is automatically picked up and nothing else. You cannot do anything over here. So it is just like this. Because the Airbus A380's MCDU is pretty much different than the one you have in this plane. So everything is looking good so far. You get your speed over here, 172, which is the V2 speed. And the altitude, I will be flying in the manage mode. Speed, heading obviously, I will be flying the following the flight plan, and then the altitude. But during the descent, I have noticed that this plane doesn't follow the constraints, which I will just demonstrate it to you during this flight. Constraints, let's turn them on. Anything else? No. So let's turn left. Also, let's turn on the lights, landing lights. So configuring this plane for the takeoff is easy. You can quickly do it. This is one of the good points. But if you're doing a long flight, you will be spending a lot of time in entering the waypoints. Or maybe you can simply select the departure and the arrival, and that's it. Or maybe few waypoints, not all of them. So let's give full throttle. As I told you before, there are no click sounds. There is no throttle configuration. That's why I always fly with the full thrust. Not full. It will go 100 and then gets red. Slightly low, but that's it. Let's see if 170 comes before the runway finishes. I wish there was a calculator for the takeoff performance. Yeah. No, 170 was for the V2. Let's take it up in the air. Positive rate of climb. Gears up. And let's track the flaps, and I can turn on the autopilot, turn on the flight director. I forgot to do that. Autopilot and auto throttle. You also have to turn it on. And now it will start to climb. You see, so this is something really strange. And below 10,000, not more than 250. So you can see thrust climb, it just only comes. I can move the thrust to climb. Is it there? Yeah. So as I told you before, you cannot hear the click sound, so you never know whether it's there or not, because I always used to hear the sound and then stop the throttle, because I'm all the time not using this TCA quadrant all the time, because it has got like you stop at the climb. I'm just using the throttle on the joystick, so that's why I always rely on the click sounds. So over here you cannot hear the click sounds. That's why you have to just look at it and then do it. So let's turn on the constraints. The constraints are already on. Let's see if there are any constraints above 7,000, above 20,000. So during the takeoff, obviously, it's going to follow all the constraints. And it's giving me an indication that by this point, I will be above at 23,000 feet. But this will not happen, because above 10,000, it will increase the speed. So it will behave differently. So you can adjust the primary flight display brightness from here, and for the navigation display you have the control over here. Moves a bit slow, but still you can do it. And for this screen you have this control. If you change it on one side, it will also be changed on the other side. The controls are mirrored for the left and for the right hand side. No matter what setting you have over here, it is always mirrored over there. On the other side, you cannot individually configure the controls, and plus there is no setting over here in the plane in order to do it individually, or you want to have a mirrored setting for the controls. Now as speed is going to reach at 320 knots, and if you look at the heads-up display, you really have to concentrate a lot, or you really have to zoom in order to see what's there on the heads-up display. I can adjust the height by pressing the space bar. As the plane is above 10,000 feet, I can turn off the lights, and that's it. So now you can see my top of climb is a bit far. The climb rate of this plane is a bit slow. It takes it a lot of time to actually climb. So let's do one more thing. Change the time of the day, and let's see how this cockpit looks in the night. So let's get the floodlight, and you can even have the floodlight over here. You cannot interact with this. Oh, you can. Great. You can see the floodlight is over here, and it just goes away. Then you have for the overhead panel, you have the brightness of the overhead panel. You can just like adjust it, and for this screen, you can always adjust the brightness like this. So let's do it like this. And for the FCU and for the EFS, you have controls over here. Backlight for the EFS and FCU. And for the display brightness, you can adjust it if you're flying in the night. So in the night, this cockpit looks nice. It's a bit bright as compared to the A320 cockpit. Can I just change the view? Yeah. So it looks nice. If I'm sitting on the jump seat, as now I'm already at the top of climb, almost about to reach it. So I'm just going to set the performance for the landing. So QNH 1008 for Qatar. 1004, sorry. 1004 for Qatar. And the temperature is 35 degrees. Wind is 090 degrees. Five knots, exactly. And the minimum decision altitude, as I will be landing the plane myself, so I will be using decision height as 213, or decision altitude to be more precise. And you can see the speeds are not coming really good. You cannot even select the flaps for the landing. Obviously, I look at the approach speed, 510 knots. It will be a miracle if I can land the plane at 510 knots, even if this plane goes at 510 knots or not, because then you will hear this error of overspeed. So even this is not coming as correct. So let's wait for the top of descent. My first constraint during the approach, or if you look at the star chart, it says 210 flight level, 21,000 feet at waypoint HAYYA. So even the altitude constraints are not coming. Even over here, in the flight plan, there is no indication coming for top of climb and top of descent. Otherwise, it comes. Now the top of descent is there. I can prepare the plane for the descent. My altitude should be 2,500. I just changing it just to show you one feature. And let's see if it works or not. So if I adjust it to 2,500, this is the point at which I will be intercepting the glide slope. I don't know, even at times in recording, a single word becomes a tongue twister. Anyhow, let's wait for it, and then I can just start the descent. Now the top of descent is near. I can start the descent. And you can see there was a first abrupt drop, and then the speed reduced, and then there is a drop. And similarly, you have seen the same thing on during the takeoff. So I just started it just to tell you that you can see this indication was also not really good. My still I've got some ground to cover, but the top of descent came a bit early, and plus at this point HAYY I should be at 21,000 feet. So that's why let's increase it again, and let's keep it at 21,000. So if you're flying this plane, you should be expecting these kind of things. So I will just climb back to 21,000 feet, because at this point I should have been at 21,000. So that's why in the managed mode, it doesn't really follow the constraints. So by this point, I should be at 21,000. And then again, I have the top of descent. Now the top of descent is here. So this calculation is not really correct for the top of descent. So if you go to this option right now, you will see that the radio frequency for the ILS, it's not coming, or the localizer frequency is not there. You have to enter it yourself, 110.1. So this is one thing that you really have to take care of. So now this frequency is there, and you can see the speed is increasing, and this is something really strange. So this also happened to me last day, and then I just took the speed out of the managed mode, and I just went in this selected mode. Let's see if it goes in the overspeed mode or not. Even the thrust lever is in the climb position. I didn't even touch it. And auto throttle is also on. Even if I reduce the thrust, nothing will happen. And then now you can see it's going in this overspeeding mode. So the speed over here should be 220 knots. So I will just go to 220. That's it. Now I'm near the runway, and almost the final approach is near. So just wanted to conclude few things, that the top of descent calculation is not that accurate during the descent or during the climb. If you are in the managed mode, it's not possible for this plane to actually follow the altitude and the speed constraints, so you have to take care of it yourself. For the landing and for the takeoff, there is no performance calculation, and even for the landing, you don't know how much brakes to apply during the landing. So I've just set it to 2 over here. I've got right now 3 flaps, and flap set to 3, and you can see I cannot arm the speed brakes for the landing. And approach speed is not even correct, as I've shown you before. It's very high. So what I do is this: for my flights, I try to keep it at 150. That's it. So I can hit the approach button for the plane to follow it. One more thing, a reverse thrust, you cannot configure it on your controllers. There's no way to configure it. I forgot to turn on the lights and the seatbelt signs, so let's turn them on. Follow the procedures, and that's it. So I will be using my keyboard for the reverse thrust, Control, Shift, and W. And in order to activate the reverse thrust, remember this thing: you have to deactivate the auto throttle, which is over here. So you don't only deactivate the autopilot, but you also deactivate the auto thrust. So this is another thing that you have to take care of. If I try to get the heads-up display, you can see it's hardly visible. So now the plane is following the glide slope. It is about to land. I finally made it. So if you are an Airbus A380 enthusiast, you want to do some flights for the video, then it's a good choice for you. And I hope this video was a useful one for you. I have tried to explore everything. I've tried to cover everything. But still, if I have missed anything or you have identified anything in this video, the comment section is always there for you. Lately, I've been very busy and I couldn't respond to all of your questions or to your comments. But now I'm available nowadays. And for the next 3.5 weeks, I will be available. Then I'm going on vacations for 10 days. Up to Pakistan. But now I've got my Legion Go and then I've got my Xbox. So I'm going to have a setup in Pakistan as well. So I might be recording videos over there. Because nowadays I'm trying to be more regular on my channel. For the last 6-7 months I was not that much regular. But now I will be. So now let's deactivate the autopilot and let's try to land. So now with this, you have to do this and then you have to bring back the thrust lever and then activate the reverse thrust. So this is how you do it. So your hands are too much busy during the landing. That's how it's done. Now just deactivate the reverse thrust and let the brakes do their job, and that's it. So this is how you stop the plane. So remember, during the landing, if you have purchased this plane and you want to do a landing, upon touching the runway, you have to deactivate the auto throttle, bring the thrust all the way back, and then activate the reverse thrust. So both of the hands are busy throughout the landing. Thank you very much for staying with me on this channel. I hope this video will be a good review for this plane, and you would have got the information that you wanted for this plane from this video. Thank you very much for staying with me. Have a nice day. Hope to see you soon.